Joan, I'm being admonished.
Oh, no.
The audience, my friends who listen like to admonish me, and that's all fine, well, and good. I know Joan is in the middle of a news report, and who the heck am I to interrupt
It's fun
wonderful
when you
Joan
do.
Jones?
It's fun when you do.
I just get triggered by some of the stuff that, I get triggered by the news. I get triggered by the absolute lawlessness that is happening. And I guess
and
part
the hypocrisy. I mean, that's what really signals everybody's crazy. Like, are you kidding me? You had that to say?
Well, and here's the deal, is that there is the hypocrisy. There's just a mental illness that, in my opinion, is going on right now with the left, where the notion of right and wrong has just completely abandoned the people on the left. They think that it is now okay to stand in front of ICE vehicles and attack ICE officers and Border Patrol physically, throw things at them. And do you know why they now believe that this is okay, Joan? The reason why they believe that it is okay is because we have allowed it.
Yeah.
And so what my hope is for 2026 on this January 12th is that somewhere, somehow, we start throwing these people in jail and start throwing them in jail for years. Not weeks, not hours, not days, but years.
Yep.
I mean, you see these people that are attacking ICE agents, and if they possibly maybe get arrested, they're out within a few hours. Mm-hmm. And so we need to, but here's the problem, is that you have these, I mean, we've talked about it 1,000 times. You've got these damn judges and these soft on crime judges that are all across the country in these Democrat cities, and they're just allowing these people to get away with it because they don't like Donald Trump and they don't like his policies. And so what we saw over the weekend in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and all across the country is throngs of people that are out there and they're attacking ICE vehicles. They're trying to break into. This is the other thing about the mental derangement of people on the left. They're trying to break in and destroy hotels, for example, throwing rocks and destroy. It's just like, you know what it is? It's the George Floyd protests all over again, where it's like you are harming business owners and people who have nothing to do with what you're complaining about. Nothing at all.
Here's another serious evil that's being perpetrated. And Sam just sent this to me. Liberals are now showing up with their babies in Minneapolis, hoping that police and federal agents won't crowd control them when things get unruly. Because they've got their kids. Why would you do this to a child?
So they're putting their children at risk.
Yes.
That is a mental illness.
Seriously deranged.
That is a mental illness, especially knowing what we found out with the death of Renee Good, is that you never know what's going to happen. So if you've got a little kid out there and then all of a sudden there's some pepper spray that is sprayed.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so now your small child with developing lungs is now breathing pepper spray or whatever that stuff is. Chemical agents. Nice going, Mom.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, but Mom doesn't think it's her fault. It's the ICE agent's fault for spraying.
These people are just nuts.
Yeah, I sent you the clip. Just the absolute, it's in the eyes, man.
Yeah, it is.
You can just see it. My grandmother would say that, this poor woman is oppressed demonically or possessed, and you see it in the eyes, and it just All right, so you have sent this to me. Where is it? Where do I cue this into? You can just let it roll.
You want to just let it roll?
Because she's on with Fox.
All right, so we'll stop and start this. Okay, so this is a woman. She's got her little baby out there, and
in the Minnesota cold.
In the Minnesota cold. Yeah. In the background is somebody with the F-bomb ice, F-ice. So great place for a kid.
Hate what's happening to it with people who, frankly, aren't from here coming in and telling us who should be here. And when it comes down to loving my neighbor, I'm just going to love my neighbor. So
you have a little peanut with you.
I do. This is Lola.
Lola. And why was it important for you to bring her?
Because I'm a psychopath. That's why it's important for me to bring my small child out to a protest where chemical agents and gunfire has been known to break out. So yes, Mom, you are a psychopath.
Just to feel the energy of love and community and
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, I just threw up a little bit of my mouth with all that.
Bring her.
just to feel the energy of love and community and to show people that I'm not going to let someone else intimidate me to live in a city that doesn't represent what I want it to represent. I want to be able to bring her in a place where people are saying we love our neighbors.
You know what's so funny? So Fox News has released, Bill Malusian, they've released some of the profiles of some of the dirtbags in Minneapolis and in Minnesota that they've arrested. Do you know how many of these guys have raped small children?
Yes, it's disgusting.
We talked about that in the 5 o'clock hour. So, hey, mentally deficient liberal, there's some of these guys that ICE and the Border Patrol are getting out of your state that would like to rape your little girl.
Deficient would mean that there's a deficit that can be made up. The doors are off the hinges.
I mean, we read the list. How many of those guys were guilty of raping small children? That's the insanity. It's like, lady, the people that ICE is getting out of your state would do terrible things to your small child. So if you want to feel the warmth and the love and the energy, why don't you ask one of those guys to babysit? If you love these criminals that ICE is trying to get rid of, why don't you then ask them to babysit your small child? You think she'd do that if she wants to feel the love and the energy? Because that's who she's standing up for. That's who she's defending. It is insanity.
Minnesota I grew up here. It's known as a very welcoming place. Can you believe your eyes? Can you believe what you're seeing happening on our streets?
I mean, no, and also I have to, because if I don't believe it, I'm not going to take action, and I think it's important to stand up for what's right and show up the way that I would want someone to show up for me.
It's amazing. And what's your name?
I'm Molly.
Molly. Thank you.
Molly, you're an idiot. So real quick, you said you had some of the names. Don't bother with the names because nobody cares about the names.
Right.
But talk about what they have done and why it is that ICE is in Minnesota trying to get these people out, trying to protect Molly's little girl.
So according to Gemini AI, with this targeted sweep in Minneapolis, 150 violent illegal aliens were apprehended by ICE in just this one sweep. And one guy's wanted out of Ecuador for murder, sexual assault. Another guy convicted of homicide and vehicle theft, possession of a stolen property, and assault. Previous arrest for arson. You had the Laotian guy convicted of sexual assault, lewd acts with a minor.
Yep.
Another guy convicted of rape, robbery, sexual assault, larceny. You've
got this
lewd or lascivious acts with a minor with another guy.
Yeah, Laotian illegal convicted of rape and child fondling.
Oh, there's two Laotians that are pedos then. It's a very small country to have two pedophiles from.
Do you know what's interesting though too? Is that you have how many more of these guys could have been captured and thrown in jail, sent out of the whatever. Had ICE not been getting this much of a pushback from all of these crazed, degenerate leftists. So instead of, because I was watching a lot of this insanity that's been going on, and I started thinking, ICE can't really do their jobs effectively because they've got these zombies from the left that are just hair on fire all around them, throwing things at them and so forth. And so they can't go out and arrest the guy from Mexico who is guilty of a sexual assault of a child and a DUI with a deportation order since 2016. How many of those guys are going to remain in our country because ICE was busy dealing with the idiots on the left, right? This is the stuff that drives me crazy. And then you hear Molly, oh, I just want to feel the energy and the love, and I've got my little peanut out here. These people are mentally ill. There is no other way to say it.
So I follow this woman. Do you know who Brittany Hughes is?
No.
On
I'm all mad.
Next.
Could you hear that in my voice?
That was
No.
very sour.
Sorry.
She has an explanation for why liberal women are just losing their minds over these issues. And hopefully it's real quick here, but I'll play it for you.
All right.
Let me explain. Liberal women are what happens when the natural female instinct to nurture and defend and care for gets misdirected away from families and children and misapplied to whatever the liberal cause of the week is. See, women have an innate instinct to support and emotionally connect to vulnerable people. We are designed to be mama bears. And in the absence of a stable and healthy home and family, a woman will find a place to put all of that.
Isn't that great? Like
Based.
that. Doesn't that sound so like, yes, that's it?
Combine it with the Carlinism that we played earlier about how when your ideology becomes your identity and you can't separate it from yourself. But to fact correct, by the way, it was 150 violent illegal immigrants arrested in one day.
You know, you would think that if they're looking for some nurturing or whatever that was, Joan, why don't they try to nurture and protect American children?
You would think.
Like
right?
your own 6-year-old that you
would think.
supposedly just dropped off at school.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of crazed leftist liberal women, got some video here.
There it is.
So you got we're making. You want to repeat what you called that drum earlier, Joan?
That's the retard drum.
The retard drum.
Yes.
That is what Joan earlier dubbed the drum that you're hearing, the retard drum. And this crazy woman that is just screaming at these ICE agents about shooting her in the face. Kids, if you're in the car with mom and you're on your way to school, don't ever do this. Don't ever scream at ICE agents like that or any law enforcement. That is, if you're looking for a teachable moment from Nashville's Morning News this morning, parents, talk to your kids about that. Talk to your kids about proper authority and proper respect for authority and so forth. But, you know, it goes back to what we were just talking about, which is the fact that there really is no respect for authority on the other side. And again, this is now what they are protecting is these insane people from Laotia and all in Mexico and all of these other people that have done these abhorrent things to children. By the way, I know that you know, but just so you know that I know, we talked about it in the 5 o'clock hour. 2 new videos have come out over the last several days. One, of course, was when it was on Friday after we got off the air, so I feel like it's been spoken about enough. But you have the video of Renee Good, and she is the one that was killed by the ICE agent, and this was moments before her death.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. It's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later.
So this is obviously, again, this is Renee Good and her wife, Rebecca. And they were, I know you've seen this. It's on my socials. It's anywhere and everywhere. But basically, they are tormenting and taunting and heckling and interfering with an ICE operation. And you can hear the clear, vile hatred in their voices.
That's fine. U.S. citizen. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy.
You want to come at us? She said that twice. You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Calling him fat, whatever. And as I said in the 5, she's not exactly non-hefty herself, Joan.
I noticed that.
As a big boy, I'm offended that get some lunch is an insult.
Listen, I've been known on occasion to eat 2 lunches. That's not a problem. Anyway, so then you, of course...
Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car.
Get out of the car. Get out of the car. Yeah. And then, of course, she, in my opinion, runs into the officer with her car. Shots ring out. And Renee Good dies just seconds later. So, number one, when people talk about how unnecessary this death was, clearly, they were not out there just trying to, what is it the left said? She made a wrong turn, just a mom trying to drop off her kid. she was clearly, and there's another video that was out, just so you know that I know, where there's another video where she was in the street for like 4 minutes and she's waving people through, waiting for the ICE agents, because this is my impression of what was going on, once the ICE agents arrived, she was going to block the entire roadway. And in her car, Renee Good was sort of dancing and bopping around in her car, because you can tell that they were fueled with a bunch of adrenaline, because they're yelling at the ICE agents. They're saying abhorrent things to the ICE agents. They are taunting the ICE agents as well. And that video, I don't know about you folks, but to me, that video just proved to me just how guilty Renee Good was and how guilty Rebecca Good is. They were taunting the agents. Rebecca Good said, what was it? Drive, baby, drive? Said it twice to Rebecca. She gunned it. You heard the car. It was, she accelerated, gas goes, and she moves forward, lurches forward, and gets shot 3 times in the face. Sorry, but unfortunately, you put yourself in that position. And by the way, the left, they're not, when that video came out, of course, do you think, Joan, has there been anyone, Sam, have you seen anyone on the left say, well, this changes things. I no longer, am going to call for the prosecution of the ICE officer. I actually believe that Renee Good was in the wrong. Have you heard anyone on the left do that, or are they just sticking to their story?
I didn't deep dive, but I saw USA Today published an opinion article about, acknowledging that her death was senseless. But let's be real, she did put herself in that position. So that's his most mainstream thing.
All right.
But no, people are not back. They think this is murder. They think this is an assassination attempt and a call to arms on their side.
Joan, did you see anybody?
No, as a matter of fact, I saw Ken Martin, he's the DNC chair, Ken Martin, is comparing the U.S. to Iran, saying that both countries are guilty of killing protesters.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
And welcome on in to Nashville's Morning News. Hans von Spakovsky is joining us, legal analyst, best-selling author, and all-around good guy. Hans, how are you?
I'm doing just fine, thanks.
There's a lot of stuff going on at the Supreme Court, and I need somebody a lot smarter than me to figure all this stuff out. So one of the things that I'm really interested in hearing your opinion on is Donald Trump's tariffs. They're in the news. We've had companies suing the administration of the president's use of emergency powers to implement those tariffs. Now, the president has come out and said, and Scott Bessent has come out and said, well, we have a backup plan. But what do you think the chances are that the court is going to overrule the president and his use of? Remind me what it was that the president said he was. What justification did he use for the tariffs?
Well, there were 2.
Okay.
I mean, he's using this 1973 law that gives the power to the president to suspend and otherwise regulate the importation of goods from particular countries under national security and economic emergency.
Yeah, emergency powers.
Right. And that law has never been interpreted by the courts. So the Supreme Court's never ruled on it. And remember, he imposed 2 kinds of tariffs. He imposed basically trade tariffs on countries that were putting up trade barriers to us. But then he also imposed tariffs on countries like Mexico and Canada because he said they weren't doing enough to stop the smuggling of fentanyl into the United States. And look, I don't know how the Supreme Court's going to come out because, like I said, this law has never been interpreted by the court. Does he have, are the things that he says are emergencies, are they really emergencies? He said that the trade deficit that the U.S. has is so large that it's hurting us economically, and that is, he says, an emergency. The folks arguing against this have said, well, that trade deficit's been that large for a long time, and so it's not some sudden emergency you can use. And How are they going to rule? Like I said, I really don't think anybody can predict what the court's going to do about it.
The president says, Hans, that he's got some backup plans, some grand backup plans to basically accomplish the same thing. So if the court comes out and rules against him, then he is saying that he can accomplish the same thing via a different path. I mean, how confident are you in that?
I'm not sure what he's talking about.
Okay.
There, quite frankly. I mean, he was using this particular authority of this this emergency statute that Congress passed in the, like I said, 1970s. I don't know what other authority he thinks he's got to do it. And they haven't, you'll notice they haven't said.
Yeah.
You know, they haven't said. They just say, well, we have a backup plan, but they haven't given us the details. Now, look, Friday of last week was the first day, really, the Supreme Court was back after the vacation. All these people were expecting they would come out with a decision on the tariff case because there's so much money at stake.
Oh, yeah.
But it didn't happen.
What do you think that means? Does that mean that maybe this is a little bit more complicated, or maybe a lot of more complicated issue, and they just need a lot more time to discuss? Yeah,
I think that is what it is. Okay. Plus, look, this week actually kicks off really the 26th session of the court, and tomorrow they're hearing two related cases, probably two of the most important cases they've got involving the laws of 24 states that banned biological males from competing in women's sports.
Yeah.
And they're hearing arguments in those cases on an Idaho law and a West Virginia law that the courts of appeal enjoined and said, oh, you can't do that. That's discriminatory. So those are the two of the biggest cases they've got, and those are being argued tomorrow.
Hans, one of the, I thought this was interesting. So I saw a story about how more than 200 female lawmakers have signed on to this amicus brief backing the legal defense to save women's sports. Not surprisingly, all of the signees are Republicans and all the liberals. I mean, they're backing. They want men to play in women's sports. But this amicus brief, does it really mean anything other than them supporting women's sports?
Yeah. Look, there have been multiple amicus briefs filed in this case. And, you know, what is an amicus brief? It's a friend of the court brief. It's something that's not filed by the parties, but people who say, well, we have an interest in this case. And you know, the Supreme Court, they read them, but some they pay attention to and some they don't. I actually think they'll pay attention to this particular one. And like I said, this is such an important issue because it's going to affect particularly girls in high school who are competing to try to get scholarships to go to college. And if boys who claim they're female suddenly start competing, they're not going to be able to win many of those scholarships. Plus there's the chance of injury also, because we've already seen injuries caused, again, by boys claiming they're girls competing in these sports.
Hans von Spakovsky is joining us. Knowing the makeup of the court, and just real quick, but knowing the makeup of the court with the men playing on women's sports team, I can't imagine a world where Amy Coney Barrett actually sides with the liberals on this one. But she's surprised me before.
No, I actually think I suspect this is going to be a 6-3 decision upholding these state laws. And I would cite to you the case out of Tennessee that they decided last year, the Scarametti case. Remember, that was the case in which Tennessee, again, along with a lot of other states, banned transsexual surgeries and drug treatments for minors, and the court upheld that.
Gerrymandering in the news, of course, leading into the midterm elections. Supreme Court, right now, they're looking at Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Critics are saying that this was designed to prevent the voting power of Black Americans to be diluted by gerrymandering state districts. So this is a really big deal for the midterm elections. Some are saying this is the most important decision the Supreme Court could make because of the fact that it impacts the midterm elections. So where do you think this is going to go?
I'm hoping that they do what they should have done years ago, which was to quit allowing. Look, Section 2 was an important law. It was passed to stop not vote dilution, but to stop straight out racial discrimination. The laws in places like Alabama and Georgia, they're keeping blacks from registering and from voting. The whole way it's been used for redistricting, particularly in the last 20 years, it hasn't been used to stop racial discrimination. It's been used, frankly, by the Democratic Party for political purposes. And what's happened often in many of these cases is when Republican legislatures, draft up plans to favor Republicans, courts misinterpret the law to say, oh, you're engaging in racial discrimination. They confuse political motivations with racial motivations. And what I'm hoping happens is Supreme Court's going to come out and put in much stricter standards for finding a violation of Section 2. In other words, you have to prove real racial discrimination, not just that you're going to be put to political disadvantage.
So, I mean, you've been watching this as I have. Do you have an idea as to where this one might go? Because, the power in Washington, D.C. could be impacted by this, obviously.
Yeah. No, I actually think they are going to come out and rule that we're putting in much stricter standards, like I said, for determining whether there's actual racial discrimination going on, as opposed to simply people trying to give an advantage to their political party.
All right, Hans, ripped from the headlines this morning, a federal judge, Biden appointee, has ruled that President Trump cannot pull child care funding from these 5 Democrat-run states, including Minnesota and California, until it's proven that it is not fraudulent, that these states are not fraudulent. This is only temporary, but talk about the issues of waste, fraud, and abuse, and why the president may or may not be able to keep our taxpayer dollars safe from fraudsters in blue states, because Trump is like, we're not giving you this money until you can prove to us that you're not committing fraud.
Yeah, this particular judge, it's a guy named Aaron Submaranian. Look, he's not only a Biden appointee, he was a clerk at the U.S. Supreme Court for who? Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the most liberal member of the court in the last half century. And I want folks to just think about this. He's a judge in the Southern District of New York, right? He only has jurisdiction in a very limited area, and yet he issues an order affecting California, Minnesota, Illinois, Colorado, in addition to New York. That tells you he's not looking at the actual law. This is pure politics. And I actually think his decision was wrong to enjoin this. The plaintiffs ought to have to prove that they don't have the same kind of massive fraud going on, that they have basic regulations and inspections in place to prevent the kind of fraud we've seen in Minnesota before they're entitled to receive federal money. Why? Because once that federal money gets paid, you can't ever get it back.
No, and here's the thing. California, I mean, there's big talk the last couple of weeks about how corrupt or incompetent California is. Chicago is one of the most corrupt cities in the nation, of course, Illinois. So it does seem to make sense to say, you know what, we're going to pull this back until we can figure out if you guys are acting as good stewards of the taxpayer money.
Right. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, one last story. We've all been talking about the ICE officers in Minneapolis, whether or not he will be charged, the one that shot and killed Renee Good. So what do you think? There's a new wrinkle, by the way, where the attorney who represented Derek Chauvin says that the state could go after the ICE officer, even if there's no federal charges, especially with how this is being politicized. How much legal peril is that ICE officer in?
Well, that lawyer is not a very good lawyer, because in the late 1800s, in a case that went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, it's a very well-known case, the U.S. Supreme Court said, in essence, federal agents cannot be criminally prosecuted by local prosecutors when they are carrying out their federal duties. So this ICE agent was carrying out his federal duties, and the locals can't prosecute him. I'm sorry, but that's been the law for 150 years.
One of the things that everybody's talking about, last question here, Hans, and this is, I guess, maybe a legal question, but maybe just a question of, asking for your observations as somebody who is an expert in the Constitution and law. So we've been watching all of these crazed protests happening all across the country, similar to what we saw during George Floyd. And it's frustrating because we see these people clearly breaking the law, clearly impeding ICE, and clearly they are not worried about any legal ramifications or consequences to their behavior. What do we need to do as a country to increase the penalties for these folks that are attacking ICE officers, throwing rocks at ICE officers or snowballs or whatever? But how do we make sure that there are consequences to this kind of behavior where it discourages this kinds of behavior in the future? Because this is not freedom of expression. Oftentimes, this is assault.
Yeah, the real problem here are local prosecutors and local law enforcement that's not doing anything about it. Yep. So what that means is that the U.S. Justice Department, particularly the U.S. attorneys in these states, they need to gear up. They need to get the FBI there. And when ICE agents are being obstructed, attacked, the FBI, federal law enforcement, needs to be there arresting these protesters and federally prosecuting them because the locals aren't doing their job. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Hans, always great to have you on, and we'll have you on again soon.